82. Norma Jenkins.
All right. Welcome everyone, and welcome to the day after Election Day. If you will join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll do the four-way test. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The four-way test of the things we think, do, and say. Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And then if you will join me for a moment of reflective silence. Thank you. It is good having everyone here. It's good seeing everyone. Oh, yeah. Once we turn that off, we're on limited time because it starts getting hot in here. I want to welcome everyone to the meeting, and just by way of some announcements, if you will, please mark on your calendars July 7th. That is the day that our new district governor, Lance Everly, will be here to meet with us and give us words of encouragement and us get to know him. Lance is a great guy, in spite of what Scott said.
The 7th is a Thursday.
Huh?
The 7th is a Thursday.
July 20th.
Yeah, but you said the 6th. So the 20th, July 20th. Don't argue with women.
We're dismissed. Oh, my. Okay. July the 20th is Lance's. I had 7/20. I'm 2 years behind. Again, let me encourage you. We've had some that have stepped up for leadership positions, and we are still looking for some. If we don't start filling in the blanks, I'm going to start calling people and asking for volunteers. So if there is a guest at your table besides Ron, if there's a guest at your table, would you introduce them? Please.
Ron, you going to introduce Mike? No, you want me to do it? He's hard to hear. You want
Introduction
This
of
is
guest.
This is Ron Groom's guest. Mike Nelson, a friend. We play golf together. He and Ron live in the same neighborhood. And if you've been downtown Jeff, beautification, chances are you see Mike and his wife watering all the plants, making sure it's nice and good.
It's good meeting you, Mike.
I lost track of where you were going. So this is Mike's third attempt to get here. So let's give him a round of applause.
It's good to have you with us, and our condolences for being friends with Ron. Second reading of prospective applicant new members. Lisa Rager, she's not here. She is in the courts, and she's one of the court magistrate, I believe. Anyway, she's not here today, but this is her second reading, and it is the second reading on Tammy Mustaine. Stand up and say something.
Something.
That's a joke because she told me she would not say anything. Don't even ask.
You, Tammy. She's gonna run all the new members off we bring in, because you're gonna make them talk. Volunteer.
Yeah, well, okay, moving right along before I get any deeper trouble. Happy dollars,
Have a happy dollar.
happy dollars.
Have a
Yes, sir.
happy dollar. It's been tradition in the Jeff Club, before it became the Rotary Club of Carter County, that we honor our friends across the river. From Kentucky Derby, okay? So I want y'all to join me to sing my old Kentucky home. If you don't know it, come along. I know Perry knows it. Oh, the sun shines bright on my old Kentucky home. This summer, the people are gay. And the meadows all in bloom, while the birds make music all the day. We no more, my lady. Oh, we no more today. We will sing one song for my old Kentucky home, for my old Kentucky home, far away. That didn't hurt, did it?
Thank you. Jim?
I have a dollar. I want to say thank you because I made that one last week on the fundraising effort that State Farm is doing nationwide. And you have to vote 10 times a day, and who gets the most votes gets $25,000. So Friday is the last day to vote, so I'm gonna encourage you to keep up. We've gone from being, the top 100 get some money. We were 84, which was real good, but today we're 92. So obviously you have to keep the pressure up and keep voting. So I have slipped again, but we appreciate it for the Vintage Fire Museum. It's for the Safety Education Center, just to expand it. It's a wonderful cause. If any of you make phone calls, it's relatively simple. It's on the computers, just dial in and you can do it. Thank you. So I have slips again for people who are willing to do it Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
I'm already logged on, so we're good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
mine too. Me
I
too.
appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Somebody else.
Keep up daily. I have a dollar.
Karen.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I wouldn't have get you for a
Oh,
dollar.
no, no.
You got three, you got it.
Just celebrate Derby week.
Oh,
There you go.
good job. Anybody else? Don?
My happy dollar is for my, I guess she's my oldest granddaughter. But she is graduating from Michigan State Friday with her MBA.
Wow.
And,
Good job.
proud of her for that.
Good job, Grant. Good job.
Anybody else?
I've got one.
Okay.
You reminded me, Don, my granddaughter also is graduating with a master's in biostatistics from when she works for IU Med School and already got a raise for getting the master's.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, the money's good. Thank you.
Happy dollar for our nephew, Brooke Kramer, who spoke at our club on the STEM program at Franklin Square. He graduates from IUS Monday evening with his second master's degree. This is master's degree in elementary education after making a midlife career change.
Good job. Anybody else?
My brother's grandson did at IU and he was at Jeff High. He got a full scholarship from there, Jeff High. drive it, and he wants to do computer, but right now, he graduated in the computer, now he's getting a job and he's gonna go to Chicago. But he was very good.
Somebody else? I have a happy dollar, two things really. Believe it's Monday is the ribbon cutting for the old Clark County Hospital, or the old hospital there in Clarksville on 31. Clark County Hospital, I think it was, no, it wasn't Clark County Hospital, it was, anyway, the medical, Clark Medical Center, yeah, there we go. It is, we're doing a ribbon cutting for that on Monday. It's opening as a drug rehab, inpatient drug rehab, and that's gonna be good. So we're really happy about that. And the other one, it'll be coming out in the paper, but you will be the first to know. We inked the contract last night. We have 120 days to do our due diligence, but we inked the contract last night to purchase, the town to purchase River Falls Mall.
Oh, no.
And so that's been a couple years in the making. There are, we anticipate, and we're already starting to get activity on that. There's a couple reasons that we're doing it. Number one, we can kind of have some influence on what goes in there and how it complements Lincoln Park and how it complements the other developments. It gives us an access road from Broadway over into that area. And it also picks up a detention pond that we're needing. That was gonna cost us about a fourth of what we're paying for the whole thing. So when you drive by there and you look at LAC and those, that's not a part of it. There are sections of it, but for the most part, it is the River Falls Mall, and there is a press release going out on that. And I think that's great. It's going to be great for Parksville. It's going to be great for some redevelopment that we've got going
So
on.
Mike, is there anything projected that's looking to go in there? or-
If I told you I had keys.
Well,
Make sure you had something. We really don't, but in the back of our minds, we know what we're looking for. And what we would like to see, and there have been some conversations, but nothing at all. Not even serious conversations. It's just what we would like to see. So, and best I can say is it will complement as best we can Lincoln Park. I have an affinity for Lincoln Park. The people that used to be there, the people that have stayed, and I would like to see it come back and be a strong, viable neighborhood like it once was. So,
What's this mean for Bass Pro?
well, we will now be their landlord.
Okay.
The previous landlord that they had was not a very good landlord as far as things that, so if anything, we are looking to retain Bass Pro. They've not talked about leaving, but if I had a landlord like they had, I probably would have been considering. So it's going to be better for them, and we're going to hopefully be able to retain them on a long-term contract. Anything else? That wasn't about me, but here you go. That was my happy dollar. I got probably a few more extra out of it. Okay, Relay for Life. There we go.
Once again, I've got the sign up sheet. Even if you see these late night hours, go ahead and put your name on here and just come whenever you can. I just like to think people that can participate in the relay, just come to walk a few laps. There's also The sheet versus a luminary, one that have a lighted base, for someone you've lost, obviously you've lost to cancer, or someone fighting cancer now. And there's still some posters in the back here as well. You take those, put those up at your place of business if you want.
What are the dates again?
The date is May 21st,
May
May 21st, 4 to 11 PM at Big Four Station Park.
And we're gonna pass that around if anyone would like to put some money in there. That would help our program. Is my name on that list, Paula?
I think I put you down last week.
Okay, good. Okay. While that's passing around, it's not COVID.
Sure.
While that's passing around, isn't that terrible? You even get choked on popcorn and you cough a little bit, and everybody's going. Okay, while that's passing around, last week I asked Julie to give us their Rotary why. Ron, will you be here next week?
Yes,
Would you do my Rotary why next week?
certainly.
Okay, we're trying to go around, trying to alternate. Julie, if you will stand up and tell us your Rotary why.
Okay. I forgot, but I'll be ready to wing it. I can get a little winded, so if I get too long, I'll just reel me in. When I first heard about Rotary, I didn't know what Rotary was, didn't know anything about it. I worked for Shoe Sensation in the corporate office there for 12 years. Half that time I was the controller, and then we were bought out and we started buying stores or just growing the company all over the Midwest. And they needed someone to be a PR person, so I volunteered for that because I knew everything about Shoe Sensation, but I love talking to people. And I joined the chamber, and every time that we opened a store, we opened like 60 stores, I think, in 4 years. We were growing pretty quickly, but every town I went to, and it started in Missouri, I went to this town and we were passing out flyers, introducing Shoe Sensation to the community. And someone said, "Oh, we have a Rotary meeting today. Why don't you come and be our guest?" Sure. I wasn't sure what it was, but I, love talking to people. So I was like, sure. So everybody had lunch. They were very, very friendly, let me talk about things, but I still didn't really know what Rotary was. And so I came back to town and I said something to my boss. I said, if we join a Rotary club, we could go to a Rotary event in every town we open a store, and maybe even get the store manager involved, and that would help us grow more within the community. So he was all for it. So, but I wasn't quite sure. We were in Jeffersonville, so I didn't really know anybody in the Rotary Club. Well, that winter, of course, Shoe Sensation worked with the Rotary Angel Tree program, and Paula had invited, or someone invited me to come because the newscaster was going to be there and to talk about Shoe Sensation helping out with the Angel Tree. So after doing that, Paula got me to come to the silent auction. That's when we were still at the Sam's out by the credit union, and I said, sure, I'll come. I didn't know what it was, but I've been to silent auctions before, so I thought, well, I'll get something, So I got to learn a lot about the people, got to learn a lot about things, and I thought, you know what, I can become a member and still learn as I go. So Paul invited me, and I had the opportunity to start carrying our club flags with me and exchanging flags with clubs that I visited. And I learned so many great stories, so many great fundraising opportunities that other people had done that was very good for them that I could share with my club, and a lot of programs that they were involved in that I never thought about before. So it was very rewarding for me to be able to bring that information back and be able to share that information with other clubs. So that's pretty much how I got into Rotary, and I've been a member ever since. So.
Will be. Hey, you are ambassador. I'll tell you where the idea for this came up from. So many times we are asked, why Rotary? And it gives us the chance to say, why Rotary? With that said, I am going to turn the program over to Ron to introduce our guest.
You forgot this.
I forgot Mr. Jim. Okay, Jim Keith and then Ron.
You said I didn't say no to Sergeant of Arms. But also said I have no idea what a Sergeant of Arms is supposed to do for the Clark County Rotary Club. Jeffersonville Rotary Club, I did that role for a long time. So we're gonna modify it a little bit, like that note. But the Rotary magazine, all of you got the Rotary magazine. What we did with the Jeffersonville Club was try to encourage people to read it, because we found out that sometimes people, good intentions, didn't read it. So what it did is usually every week pick an article. There are a lot of articles you see about tabs on. We're not gonna do one a week, but I picked an article, and this particular magazine, it's basically on the Minneapolis after the George Floyd incident, and talked about Rotary involvement. So what I would like is a member to read that article and report on it next week. What they're thinking of the article. We won't do that every week, but that kind of breaks it and gives a story of the guys in the Rotary. So I need somebody to, Scott said he would do it. And I'm not wrong with it because he likes Minneapolis.
Well,
you can do
Mary and I'll sort of go ahead and we can follow up because Mary's sister lives not too far from the site. We visited her a couple of times. 2 miles.
Very, very good, very good. It's a very interesting article.
So,
And the tie-in, there's always a page on Joy every month. They have a page in here on events every month, but basically fundraising suggestions of Rotary clubs all around the countryside. So sometimes you pick up a good idea there. Thank you, Mike.
Good job. Yeah. Always great to see a great crowd, and it's certainly a pleasure to be here with everyone today. I want to say to Mike, thank you for your role in making that rehab hospital a reality there off of Highway 31. It was on my list for several years, and we thought we had the state going to take that over, but that was never happened. So thank you. That's very, very important to this community, much, and especially to the redevelopment of the River Falls area. Congratulations. Our guest speaker today is Karen McCartin Foster. She lives in Charlestown Road in Jeffersonville. She and her husband, Mark, own Kenmar Farms, which is a farm off the Charlestown Road, specializing in Angus beef cattle. Karen's favorite thing to do is to get on an over-the-road, off-road vehicle, get a Diet Coke or something to drink and head out in the fields with that herd of Angus cattle. She goes out and talks to them, I think. And that's her passion. Her favorite food is probably steak. Her favorite musician is none other than George Strait. If you don't like George Strait, then you're not a friend of Karen. Just big George Strait fan. Karen's been in the real estate business for about 40 years. I believe her first company, or one of her first companies, was Bass and Weisberg. For those of us that are over age 60, that's a real estate company that was very active in the 70s and 80s. It became Parks and Weisberg, and now it's Hathaway, I believe, is part of that network. And Karen remembers well the inflation rate in the 80s when home mortgages were 20%. And now we face a different situation in the commercial real estate market of having a lot of interest, but nothing to sell in some situations. So without further ado, please welcome longtime friend of mine, Karen McCartin. You might remember her father, Tom McCartin, who is a county office holder, long time office holder in Clark County. Karen, thank you for being here today. I appreciate you. Love you. Good luck to you.
Thanks. So,
Ron was a little off. I've been in the business 45, almost 46 years.
I didn't want to go.
Okay. And the crazy thing is, I've known him almost all that time. And yes, I did start out when I was 19, so you can kind of figure out where I'm at. And it's been the best career I could have ever possibly. My parents gave me the best growing up in the whole entire world, and surrounded me with people like Ron Grooms and Don Day and many other people, Jim Key, and many other people who were a big part of my life growing up and made me become, I always call myself a chameleon. So if I was with, back then when I sold for Ron Pfeiffer and Kim Oka and George Hughes, when I sold the River Shores condominiums, those big condominiums were $250,000. And I took those out of my year average because I didn't want to skew my average for the next year. And, but I could run with all the high rollers, but I also could sell a $30,000 or not, actually $9,600 was my lowest home that I ever sold. I could run with them. And part of that, Ron mentioned my dad in politics. We didn't politic every 4 years. We politic year round, and it wasn't politic, it was true friendship. And I went to a lot of Hibernia coon suppers, thank you. And Dr. Kamer knows that well, that literally, we did that from the time I was born on. It wasn't a matter that we just cared about those people every 3 and 4 years. We cared about them year round. And that set me a base, which is not what you guys want to hear at all, not what I was going to talk about, but what that did was set me on a wonderful spiral in my life of being with wonderful people. I don't care if it's on the lowest end or on the highest end of home. I've just closed on my largest property ever at $9.3 million, well, a farm, which will now be an industrial park in Charlestown. But I've sold the lowest, and I used to joke that in one day I had a $46,000 closing and a $460,000 closing, and I just had to change my clothes in between because you don't wear the same clothes with those people. And back then, 460 was a lot of money, and that's what I wanted to talk about, is what the market is doing. The market is, I don't know what the market's doing. You can ask my dear sweet friends, the bankers. None of us know what the market is doing. The statistics, I've been busy, so I didn't prepare for this until this morning, but the statistics are just out of control. Just to give you an example, this is our spring market. This is when I normally carry 20 listings. I've always been known as a listing agent more than a buyer's agent, but right now I would be carrying about 20 to 24 listings at any given time, this time of year through the summer. On all of our listings in Clark County today, we have 194 listings active. So I normally, which I'm one of, and I'll put this up here, let me find it, 700 and some odd agents, 710 realtors. And I'm going to get to that statistic, which is a sad statistic for me, seeing the future of some of these really good realtors that are going to probably fall off. But, for me, normally to have 20, I have 2 right now. And I guarantee, well, actually, I listed one yesterday at 5 o'clock. I already have 2 offers on it. There's 7 showings today. And tonight, I'm going to be presenting whatever offers I have, and it'll be sold by tomorrow. So it's a good problem, but it's a bad problem. The good problem is that, yes, I'm making money, and the sellers are getting their houses sold rather quickly at a price that we'll talk about in just a few seconds. I have a hard time with, is at an inflation price that most of us remember the days of Marble Hill. Marble Hill is the only other true seller's market I've ever experienced in Southern Indiana in my 45, 46 years. That was an inflation market where they were bringing in executives from New York and California, nuclear executives, and they were used to selling, they sold their $200,000 piece of property in California, and they could come here in a house in Oak Park that like I sold Mary many, many years ago, sold for $60,000. They would come in here and buy it for 100. And because there were 6,000 of them, so we had a lot of buyers and not a lot of inventory back then. We had good inventory, it just wasn't prepared for those 6,000 people coming in. But then in one day, one single day, and I don't remember the day, I wish I did, the light went off and Duke Energy or whatever they were at that time shut down the nuclear power plant, and 6,000 people left in one day. For those of us that remember, they came in over like 2 or 3 years. And so we saw a slow appreciation, but it became a very false appreciation, what I've called it all these years when I've tried to explain that, a false appreciation. I remember, and hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn here at all, but we all remember the Perellas. And they got a divorce during that time, and she bought outright their home because they had kids, and that's what we do, right? The women buy the, but I always felt sorry for her because she bought at the top of the market, and then the market fell. I is not super close to them, but I always use them and think about them as an example, and I'm worried that that's getting ready to happen again. Don't know when. I've been seeing that for 2 years. So, but the statistics I'm going to show you in just a few minutes are just totally mind-boggling. In the last 3 days on the MLS, which is multiple listing service for Southern Indiana, there have been 89. Now this is 3 days. The 24 was in the last 24 hours. There's been, in 3 days, there's been 89 new listings. 20 of them that were pending were put back on the market. Why is that? Well, let me give you an example. The hardest time, I always tell everybody when I present an offer, we're negotiating this first time, the first of 3 during our transaction. I'm going to have offers to present to you, and we're going to pick one that's the best. And we've negotiated the price of the terms and the conditions. And then comes along the home inspection. This is a home inspection if you haven't seen it. And a perfectly good little home out on Perry Crossing Road that I just sold, perfectly good, built in the 50s, some things wrong with it, but nothing major. 4 pages of repairs, 4 pages of repairs in this. And so then the third time is when the appraisal comes along. So one of the things we have to negotiate in a purchase agreement up front, if you're a realtor that's on top of it, is you negotiate what the heck happens if we listed our house. I'm going to use a crazy figure of 200,000 because you can't hardly buy a house for 200,000 anymore. But we list it for 200,000 because that's what the realtor said it's worth. Okay, so we list it. We get 6 offers, and that's kind of low in this market. We get 6 offers, and they've offered all the way up to $215,000. That's really cool. Let's take that offer. Well, is it FHA? Is it conventional? Do I have to pay closing costs? All those things need to be considered. But then the most important thing is, what happens if that house doesn't appraise for $200,000? Have you just lost out on another offer that was maybe 205, that maybe the people would have paid the $5,000 difference, and the 215, they have no intention of paying. Number one, they don't have the $15,000 to pay that $15,000. So there are so many things for us as realtors to try to convince our sellers of real life. It's just not the highest offer that we get. There's a lot involved. I'm sure that First Savings deals with this all the time. You know, gosh, the appraisal came back low. What are we going to do? In the past, the sellers always reduced down to whatever the appraisal price is, because no buyer would pay more, right? It's not the case today because of our inventory. It's definitely not the case. I've had 2 buyers this year that were financially well off, that one paid more than $30,000 more for the appraisal because they wanted that location, and the other one paid about $15,000 more. But that's not your everyday Joe public who can't afford that $15,000 or $30,000. And then the realtor gets them into a position of where they lose the home. Well, then we have the home, we get an offer accepted, and it's the best offer we can do. for all circumstances. Then we do the home inspection. Well, guess what? That buyer paid top dollar for that house, maybe even more than full price. So this 4 pages are silly things like the bedroom door sticks, you know, because they want everything perfect. So then what's the seller say? Let's just move on to one of those other offers. You know, forget these people. Let's just move on to somebody else. So there's a lot more involved today than there ever has been in my 45 years. It's very detailed. It's not a fact that, you know, gosh, you just sit around. First of all, it takes us about 3 hours to go through something like this home inspection, and try to help the buyer figure out what's really worth asking for and what isn't. So there is a whole lot involved. I'm going to tell you, since you're Clark County, I just specifically put this down to Clark County. In the last 3 days, 42 listings on the market have decreased in price. So they listed, let's say in our $200,000 example, and they've reduced it for some reason to $195,000. Why is that in this great market? Well, January through May is a big difference. To give you an example, in January, well, actually from about last October to January, I was working with a young couple that could both have good jobs, could afford a $400,000 home. At $400,000 with the amount of money they were putting down, which I can't remember exactly how much, their payment was $1,501. So we made offers on probably 5 or 6 homes along the way, but they didn't get it. They were one of the other offers that didn't get involved. And so about 3 weeks ago, we found a home. She told me, she said, I don't care what we have to do. I want this home. You know, let's make this one work. So I said, okay, well, have you talked to your loan officer lately? No, I have my pre-approval letter. Well, let's call your loan officer. Now, mind you, in January, interest rates were about 2.8. And to remind you, they were qualified for a $400,000 home, and their payments were $1,501. When we found this $400,000 home that they wanted to buy, and they talked to their loan officer, they then could afford a $300,000 home, and their payments were $1,556. So not only did they come down $100,000 in what they could afford, their payment went up $51 or $55. So we have a lot of people out there that in the last couple of years could afford at 2.8, that at 5.5. Cheryl, what's your house rates today? Do you know?
The 30 years probably averaging between 5.5 and 5.625.
Okay. So, you know, and just in January and February, it actually happened on a Friday afternoon. Rates changed. I don't remember what day it was, but it was about 3-4 weeks ago. But literally on a Friday, it went from 2.8 slowly up, maybe on Thursday, till Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock, it was 5. And then it's gone up to about 5.5 and stayed about there for the last couple of weeks. Well, our funnel has just gotten a lot smaller. So we're starting to see what I think is home price correction, where what's going to really be sad is that these people that paid way up here and paid extra money, they're going to be losing real soon, even if our market doesn't crash. We all in this room have lived through 2008 and saw what that did. It scares me to death, all these developers out there with all these lots that they're developing and everything that they're doing. What's going to happen over the next year? It's going to be very scary. I try not to cry wolf, but you know, being a little bit of a historian in this market, it's just very scary. One of the things I found out this morning was that from January of 2001 to March of 2002, if you had a home in January of 2001 that was worth $198,000, which I did all of Southern Indiana, Clark, Floyd, Harrison, Crawford on this. So $198,000 today, literally today, because I did this morning, it's worth 220. And that's just kind of a average. That's 11% increase in a little over a year. From April, I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't know. So this one, I'm not really sure, because the way I did this one, maybe what I did was did Jefferson or Clark and Floyd counties. They're up 13.4%. So the 11.1 includes all of our area, and the 13.4 includes Clark and Floyd. That's a lot of money in a year and a half. I literally sold a house to somebody about a year and a half ago in November, and for $330, and up in Charlestown in one of the nice subdivisions off of Bethany Road. And they called me in April. That was in November, about November, and then April. They called and said they've been transferred. They need to sell. And I said, oh my gosh, you are just going to be upside down. It's just going to be horrible. I sold their house in 4 days for $440, and it appraised. That's been the craziest one I've ever had. That was just nuts. The average price in Clark County on a homes right now are $241. The maximum price that has sold on a home has been $770. This, you all may have not been too interested in this, but this really got my attention. There are 710 realtors in Southern Indiana. 102 of us have a sales price average of over $300,000. That means our average homes that we're selling are over 300,000 in Southern Indiana. And if you remember a while ago when I said when I did River Shores condominiums, they sold for like 250, and I took them out of my year's averages because I didn't want it to skew. So for that many people to have an average sale price was just amazing. But what bothers me is that there's only 50 realtors. There's 710. There's only 50 that have sold 3 million or more this year. Now that sounds like a lot, and I've always thought that we do this wrong. And it varies, depends on the realtor, the company, and everything. But you can, if a realtor says they've sold $1 million worth of real estate, it's between $17,000 and $20,000 income to them. Okay, so you think about that. Only 50 agents have sold more than 3 million, and it's May. So if, let's just say it's 20, so it's easy for me. So some of them have made 60,000, but the rest of them, which are 608, have made well below $50,000 this year, and they're working. That's the hard part for people not to understand. Remember a while ago when I told you that, you know, I get a listing and then I present 6 to 17 offers, whatever. Well, let's say it's the 6th. There's 5 other realtors that don't make a penny off of any of that transaction. They have made the appointments. They've pulled out copies of the listings or pulled them up on the internet. They've created a relationship with that buyer. They've taken an hour or so and gone and shown a home. They've presented an offer. You know, if you worked at Ford and you worked about 5 hours to write an offer and you to do something on a truck and you didn't get paid for it, you'd be upset. You'd quit, you'd find another job, you'd do something. But there's a lot of realtors doing a lot of work and not getting paid because realtors are 100% self-employed the way we are today. Amazon's changing that, but right now we're 100% self-employed. So, you know, the realtors, it sounds like a fun job and easy, but it really wears on you. It wears on me, and I'm used to it. For the first time in my years of being married to my husband of 32 years, I'm going home going, I understand why people retire at the end of 20 or 30 years, because this market's different. I don't like it. I would quit today if I could, because I love what I do, but it is just a lot of stress right now.
We have about 5 minutes.
5
I don't
minutes
want-
tops.
I want to respect everybody's time.
Yes,
So, and then if you could wrap it up in maybe 5 to 10 minutes.
I can. This is a graph, and I didn't bring copies, but it's pretty easy to see. This kind of tells why we've had this appreciation. This was in 17, and this is how many listings we had. This is now. This was 2001. So you can see the supply and demand. Just, we have lots of demand, no supply, which is causing all the appreciation. But I ask you, being a fiduciary type agent, is that I want you all to keep in mind that I worry about the money people are spending on their homes now. Yeah, they've made good money in the last 2 years. This market has been ridiculous. And Mary and I were just talking about what their home's worth now. You know, it's crazy. And one of the things I do for my past clients that I would be glad to do for all of you all, I tell you to be patient. It won't take me like in a day or two because there's no strings attached. It's just something that I do, is that I come in and do a new value on your home, because that could make a difference in your financial, for your financial person. I'll give you a copy and give one for your financial person. It may take me 2 months to get it done, but I'll get it done for you. If you'd like to give me a call, I'll be glad to set that up for you. And I just thought this was kind of interesting. This is a statistic that I just thought, this is what all of our minds, this is what our market is right now. It's, you can see all the different colors and all the jig jags. It's just a mess. So whatever I'm telling you now may not be the truth in 24 hours. It's just, it's the truth. It's the history, but it may not be the case. But right now, we can't find homes for sellers. So it's great to sell your house and make all that money, but where are you going to move? So I guess questions? Yes.
So usually, you know, consider our economy back. Our marketplace, capitalism creates creativity.
Yes. Yes.
So usually, coming from the development background, adaptive reuse seems like this would be the ideal time for us, you know, in terms of new construction, no, but taking older construction and redoing, or taking buildings that were typically industrial plants and converting them into condos.
Right.
Why don't we see a lot of that? Or is it happening?
Well, it's a little bit of happening, you know, what's going on with the Haynes down in front of Colgate, or the Falls City area. A little bit of that's going on there. The other part that looks old, that's in Jeff, is pretty much all new, just made to look old. But you're kind of see that on a residential side, because look at, and this is going to be off the top of my head. I don't have this statistic, but I'm going to feel pretty safe about this. 3 years ago, you could buy a shotgun house or just a regular little bungalow in downtown Jeff for $130,000. You can't find anything in downtown Jeff $220,000. So people have done that. They've gone in. There's been a lot of flippers. I'm not a big flipper fan, but because they usually don't do great work. Some of them do, some of them don't. But you know, they have gone in and flipped these homes. So you're seeing some of that. Our area doesn't have a lot of plants. I know that they took the M5 building and did that, but we don't have a lot of places to do that. They've done that in Louisville, but over here there's not a lot of places. But that's very true.
Lord, not question, the statement. I wish the tax assessor would have been at this meeting today, because I just got it in the mail.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about this, and Ron can probably jump in and tell you more. But yes, our tax assessments have gone up, but there's state legislation, and please confirm this or say, Karen, you're wrong.
Right.
But there's state legislation that will only let our taxes go up so much per year. So what happens when that happens, I've been through enough of these, is that, yeah, call me, I'll give you some comps, you can get your assessment down. There'll be lots of people appealing this year, but the tax rate will go down. Is that not right, Ron? That's correct. So the tax rate will go down. So your taxes can only go up 1.5%? That's correct. Okay, got it. 1.5%. If it's non-owner occupied or commercial, I think it's 3%. Yeah, so the most your taxes are going to go up is 1.5%. So yes, be careful. give me a call, I'll get you some comps, sign up to do a reassessment adjustment. And hopefully they don't take it up instead of down. But I will still send you some comps to do that. But your taxes, the most it'll go up is 1.5% because that's law. So be afraid, but don't be too afraid.
Then you have the property tax caps.
Caps, that's
Which
what,
is maximum is 1% of the gross assessed value.
okay,
So you have the cap there, then you have the state's enforced cap on your taxes. So cities and counties, towns can't just go wild, but
right.
all this wild, all of a sudden this excess revenue.
And another thing that Indiana has done is they've taken away the mortgage exemption, which is a good thing, because what they've done, and will probably affect some people in here, for your homestead, so the home that you live in has always, you get a $45,000 negative to your tax assessment. It's now going to be 8. So they're including that in that. So if you've paid your home off, you're not going to get penalized anymore. So that's a good thing for a lot of people in our age bracket.
But Karen, can I add to that real quick?
Yes.
On those mortgage exemptions, and it took me a while to learn it, it's a very good sales tactic, where the home equity line of credits, put the exemption on it. You're probably looking at a savings of about $50 a year.
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't realize that. They thought it was more, savings, but you're right. It's gonna be very.
This is going to be very beneficial for people that have paid their homes off. They won't be penalized for doing the right thing, for paying off their homes. Anything else? Good enough. Thank you.
Your reputation precedes you, but earlier we went through the Rotary four-way test.
Yes.
And this is the Rotary four-way test. Now, I know ladies, you don't typically carry pockets, but as men, I always carry one in my pocket. And there are times when dealing with someone that it's difficult, I reach my hand in my pocket and I just rotate that around. I'm practicing that four-way test. So I'm gonna give you my card.
Well, what an honor. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being a part. Give her a
Oh,
hand again.
thank you.
And oh, by the way, we still have blank applications if anybody should want one. Okay, in the interest of time, without any other announcements or anything, we will dismiss until next week.
Next week's speaker is Joe Glover from IUS, followed by Tina Bennett from Clarksville Community, followed by Brian Glover from Clark County Government.
Thank you, Ron.
Yes.
I had trouble keeping up. Good job.
No. It's no problem. As a buyer, as a seller, not the guest. Doing a mortgage is possible. But if you have to like this, a mortgage or not. We have a friend for that. No, not. But they said if it's a seller, if it's a buyer.